here we are the students. We are facing problems going home in the afternoon if we have to attend afternoon classes. Like there are some students who are working students and they do not have access to transportation, such as they do not have their private cars. And it is very expensive to hire cabs in the night especially. So requesting if it is possible by this government to at least open up the Labasa town till 8 to 9 in the night so that the bus transport service is available till that time so that the students can get access to that.
No, thank you. This actually has been raised with us before, not specifically for students, but generally by people in Labasa. It's not a question about opening up Labasa town, it's a question about the bus companies providing a service. And that obviously is something, Kamal here sits on the LTA board, we'll ask him to look into that. I mean, the other thing that I think some of the FNU can also look at is, for example, providing maybe some form of transportation. If people are coming from one particular area in these late classes, you can have FNU mini buses that can run. I know that, for example, the FNU campus is in Ba is looking at providing a bus from the bus stand to the campus because the campus is quite far away from the main town. So we could talk to FNU about that too. That could be the solution. But this is the problem, you see. When you have certain businesses in Fiji, they don't want to participate in growing the economy. If, for example, they provided certain bus services, you'll feel good, you know. You'll maybe obviously then stay back, shops can stay open later, they'll make more money. But people don't want to make the move. Of course, maybe it's by the fact that some of the bus company owners here are politicians too, that could have an impact too. But no, we'll certainly look into that. Thanks.
I've got a question in regards to medical services. If you I'm a student here and I'd like to go to the hospital, right? So if I'm sick, I'm going 8 o'clock in the morning and I have a class around 10. So it takes half a day or sometimes a whole day. So if you could get an idea of something to let the doctors see as fast.
That might be unfair because the others will say, why should the students get first preference? Somebody might be working at FSC. Somebody might be working for somebody else. They said, I have to go to work too. So what's the big deal about this student? So the problem will be solved with what we're saying from the 1st of Jan. We're going to see private doctors. So if like you may go and see a doctor because you know you're not feeling well, you got a head cold, you want some prescription, so you can go and see a GP. Of course, if you've fallen down, broken your back, you've got a cracked skull, you've got chest pains, you know, etc., then you go to the public hospital. So if more people go to the GPs, then the lines will be shorter. So when you go for emergency cases, I can tell you in Australia, in Queensland, if I turn up to the public hospital, if I turn up, say, for the equivalent of the hospital like you have in Labasa, with a head cold, they'll tell me to go away. They won't see me, even though it's a public hospital. They'll tell me to go and see my GP. Now, the whole idea of having a GP is this too. When you go to a private doctor, you develop a relationship with the doctor. So you may see the same doctor for the next 3-4 years, right? So assuming, you know, you go see your spouse, your children, you develop that relationship. So there's one doctor, for example, that lives around the corner from where I live. There's a lady doctor that I go there, my wife goes there, our 3 kids go there. But she knows the family history of our kids. So when one of the kids actually, there's something wrong happens, you know, he was like this 2 years ago. So you develop that relationship. In that way, you get better medical consultations. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Hello. Thank you, sir. Can I speak in Hindi, please?
Sure.
मैं एक किसान हूँ, मेरा नाम है शेख और मेरा 1500 टन ऑफ क्लीन है। तो हम लोगों ने एक जैसे देखा कि सेंगा या नेवलमलगू डिस्ट्रिक्ट में जितना हार्वेस्टर आया है वो सब जैसे मैकेनिकल हार्वेस्टर वो फ्लैट एरिया काटते हैं। तो हम लोगों का प्रॉब्लम है वो जो स्लोपी एरिया है उसको हार्वेस्ट करने के लिए फिर हम लोग को लेबा लेकर आना पड़ता है। तो लेबा अभी उस पर हम लोगों को एक्स्ट्रा चार्ज आउट करते हैं क्योंकि हम लोग फ्लैट एरिया जब काट लेते हैं तो स्लोपी एरिया के लिए वो लोगों ने और डिमांड करते हैं, वो खाना पहुँचाते हैं और जैसे कि हार्वेस्टिंग रेट है जो लोग बहुत ज़्यादा मांगते हैं। तो हम लोगों को सोचा कि हम लोगों ने एक कोऑपरेटिव बनाया अपना 10,000 टन गन्ना है। तो हम लोगों ने आप लोगों को रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं कि एक हार्वेस्टाइजेशन हम लोगों ने बात किया ब्राज़ील का, वो जो स्लोपी भी काटते हैं और फ्लैट एरिया भी काटते हैं।
ले लेगा proposal आपसे. What this gentleman is talking about is that he's a cane farmer and he's saying that they have some of the cane that's grown on the hillsides, and obviously the mechanical harvesters that we have at the moment, they can only cut cane on the flat land. They don't cut cane on the slopey areas. So he's saying that they've identified some harvester that can actually do that also, do cut flat and hilly land, and they want some assistance, and he's got a proposal. तो आप दे देना.
A very well presented budget, no doubt about it. We understood, I think, every word of it. Your government and ministry has allocated a huge amount of money on all the sections. There is no doubt. Sir, we can see that second largest budget was being given to the water authority. But this is a very, very ongoing problem in Labasa we face. Only the water cartridge is not going to solve the problem. So what we have seen, that the work on the ground is not being done correctly, because we see that they don't have got that any, I think, annual project. I think they don't have their development project and annual plans like this to look for means where they can solve this problem for sometimes and forever. Water cartridge, we have seen that in the year 2017, it has gone for as far as December and January. The money that is being used there is there for some other contractors who are making the money. There is no doubt about it. We can see that. And water tanks, which you have just mentioned, is a solution which is going to provide. But where the source of the water is going to come from? That is the main reason. Say, we humbly request the government to please look into this, and I think an inquiry should be set to investigate where the whole revenue is going for. The development plan, the annual project plan, then the strategic development, what areas they are really concerned. We haven't seen this for quite a number of years. They should have increased the size of reservoir to cater for wants and needs for it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I mean, look, I mean, you are right. There has been some challenges with the Water Authority of Fiji. As you know, that a few months back there were some issues. Some people who used to be in Water Authority are no longer in Water Authority. I heard one of them is joining a political party. But of course there's been some accountability issues. We've got some specific funding for Water Authority of Fiji in Vanua level. Kamal Gounder, who is with the Ministry of Economy, also sits on the Water Authority board. He sits on the LTA board, Water Authority board, Fiji Roads Authority board, and Energy Fiji board, because we wanted somebody to be able to liaise with all the different infrastructure boards. I urge you to look at this. I think some of it we may solve some of the issues that you are talking about. And some of them are actually connecting people to reticulated systems. Some of them are also building up the reservoir inlet, the mains from the reservoirs. But water is a challenge in this area. Of course, we are playing a lot of catch-up too. Many of the things, of course, that people want now should have been probably done about 20, 30 years ago, but I'm not making an excuse for that. We have to obviously deal with it now. But have a read of this brochure, and in fact what we've done here, Kamal just marked it for you. There's this blue line here, that's specifically there, and of course this is all Northern Division, and these are the ones about the reservoirs, so have a look at that.
On behalf of the public present over here, it's in Northern Division. At present we are facing traffic congestion from Labasa Bridge to Olsen sometime at Tuka and towards Labasa to Nasekula Road. There is a huge volume of vehicles. There is a development is going, your government doing development so far. FNU is coming up, the water city, and many organizations is coming. Your hard work has been done on Labasa to Nambalu Road, and the flow of public is over here in Labasa. request that the government can do some bypass road so that the traffic congestion, most of the people and public suffer morning and afternoon or midday time. So I have humble request to PG Road Authority and your government to set up some criteria that this traffic flow is well in Labasa. Thank you.
In this year's budget, we've allocated $2 million. It says here, it's in the brochure. It says investigation and design for new Labasa bypass road and bridge. We have to obviously design it. That bridge obviously cannot take the normal trucks and traffic. We have to ensure that the design is right. We're spending $2 million into that, and then we start building the bypass in the road. So it's there, $2 million. It's starting in this financial year. We have to do the investigation. I can say to you, don't worry, I'll do it this year. Then I put a bridge and your car will fall in the river, then we'll say, hey, you build a bridge that doesn't work. See, again, you have to have a little bit of patience. You need to have the right contractors, you need to do the right engineering works. We don't want to be like previous governments. You build a bridge, 10 years later you have to rebuild it. Bridges in Watuanga and Stinson Parade, built only in 1970s. They already failed. We had to get the Chinese to come and help us build new bridges. They gave it as a grant. When the CSR built bridges, it lasted 90 years, 100 years. Bridges were built in the 1970s and 80s, they're lasting only 20 years. You want us to do that? We can do that, but we'll waste of the taxpayers' money. We'd rather do a good job. But $2 million has been allocated in this year's financial year to do the design and also the investigation for the new bypass road for Labasa. Because you've got a railway bridge. You've got buildings there on the side. We need to probably buy some land, buy buildings, people's land to actually do a proper road. You want a road this narrow where the trucks can't fit in, then you'll complain that 2 cars can't pass each other in the bypass road. There's a lot of compulsory acquisition we have to do too. We have the new manager here who will tell you about that. So all of these things need to be done properly. Okay. But you can be rest assured there's funding allocated in this year's budget to start the work.
I have some problem about bus drivers.
Sorry, you have a problem?
The problem is some drivers, we have 4 or 5 drivers here sitting. We drive on the road, people text to the LTA, they're telling that we are taking the cash fare from the people. But it's not the right thing, we are taking by card. People, just like they don't have fare, they don't have money to buy the disposal, we tell them to please move out of the bus because they don't have money, neither they have the card recharged. And on that question, they text the message to the LTA that people come on the way, they charge the drivers for nothing. So I see he got one tin for $1,000. $1,000 fine is very hard for us to drivers to pay. And please, could you solve this problem? The driver, he was driving on the way, and he took the money by card, but somebody texts about him that he took the money by cash. The taxes, they accept the taxes from the people who tax the people to the LTA.
Yeah. No, in fact, I've already had a discussion on the LTA board about bus drivers being fined, and the evidence that they're using is not reliable. But we'll talk to you about it afterwards.
It is not the right fine, $1,000 for a bus driver to
You should not be fined at all.
Huh?
You should not be fined at all.
$1,000 is too much. I counted 17 drivers paying $1,000. One driver paid $2,000. 2 people lost the tickets, and the LTA people checked the tickets. They lost the ticket. They gave him $2,000 fine.
No, there are issues with that, because obviously some people are abusing it. And of course LTA should not be relying on that kind of evidence. But the reality also is a lot of bus drivers, of course, are taking cash, maybe not in your bus company, but some of the bus companies in Vitilevu, they are doing it.
If somebody is doing that's fair enough.
But in this case, like I said, that's not good evidence to rely upon, and based upon that, they should not be giving it.
They did not show the text, they did not show any of the chukol.
No, they can't be doing it. No, we'll talk to you about that afterwards. Okay?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
MPI has been providing planting materials every year to farmers. At this stage, farmers have to smart on the farming system and strategies.
Speak a bit louder, please.
In overseas, for every harvest farmers provide 10% of their planting material in the next seasons. Why can't you provide farmers with machinery incentive rather than feeding them with planting materials all their lives. They might be using you, or else government need to change the agriculture system in development.
The question is about giving farmers more access to machinery or mechanized farming. If you read the budget, you'll see the Ministry of Agriculture budget in the flyer. You'll see that we've actually made some additional provision for mechanical farming. So there's a lot of tools being made available. In fact, in the Ministry of Sugar, we have actually a funding available where we give farmers things like, the weedicide sprays. We give them farming equipment also through Ministry of Sugar. For Ministry of Agriculture, if you read the budget in detail, you'll find there's also provisions, some new provisions have been made in respect of giving them access to mechanical machinery. So things like plows, things like hoes. But the point about providing them with seedlings, you see, if for example you provide a farmer with seedlings, the whole idea is, say, if you give farmer dallo tops, right? If you give them dallo tops, you're giving them the ability to grow obviously more dallo. When they harvest that dallo, they have dallo tops on their own because you use that same dallo top. So it's a recycling process, and also we from time to time replenish it with any other seedlings. Same thing, we're giving them seedlings in different areas, like the farmers were given, those who do vegetable farming. They're giving seedlings for example, tomatoes and various other things. The whole idea is, as a farmer, once you get what we call the seed bank, then you continue to use that for your your next harvest. That's what you do. But if you read the budget, there's some funding available for that. It's in the budget.
Thank you, sir. Really, we appreciate what our government is doing for the people of Fiji, and it's never ever we had received the help from any other government. What our government is doing now, really we appreciate. But only say, humble request that one thing fumble up from this year. Only we want to know there is the clarification that for this zonal taxis, that where their proposed stand should be, the zonal taxis. Like Labasa zone, some of the taxis have been issued. At the moment, I think there is 2. But it's written there, Labasa zone transport. And we want to know that where they applied from, the proposed stand should be there, from there, or within that area, anywhere they can operate.
The letter, the second one. Eventually, that's what will happen. Eventually, you will get what we call open bases. That's the model they're following. So they'll be done progressively. So for example, we have the different zones, and they've obviously said which area, which zone is, where, the geographical location of that, the parameters. So they say, okay, zone 1 is from, say Labasa Bridge to wherever it is, that's the zone. So they'll say in this zone, they're going to give out, say, 50 permits, as an example. So once you get the 50 permits, then those 50 taxis have been given a permit because they're from that zone. But the bases will be open. Yeah, that's eventually the goal. So once we give out the permits, then the idea is that the municipal councils need to mark out more bases, but it won't be like your base. It'll be an open base. So if, like you have overseas, so for example, you have 10 bases here, any 10 taxis can come and park, right? So your taxi, if somebody's come, you got a fare, you go away. Then you go away, you may then after you've dropped somebody off in another location, there may be a base there, you may want to park there. Somebody may have come from another area, they can park over here. So you move up the rank. That you call first cab off the rank. That's the system you have, first cab off the rank. So whoever's first goes first. The next one goes up. The next fare comes up, then you move up. But it'll be an open system, eventually. Yeah.